I'm going to delete everything by just holding down Control and dragging over everything and pushing delete. Now I'm on an empty canvas, and I want to double click the canvas and now I can search for nodes. This is one way, and probably the most common way, to place nodes into the Comfy UI canvas. So the one I want to place in is load image. This loads the last image that I used earlier in my load image. And I also have the option to load images as a folder of images. It's called a batch of images in Comfy UI. So I can do load image batch. And I can see I've got this was node option or this Comfy UI mix lab nodes option. These are both custom nodes that don't come with Comfy UI, but were pre-installed in the version that you have. And by clicking that, I can enter the path for the folder, and I'll come to that in a second. So with the load image, I'm going to do a number of things to images. And the point I want to make is that not all these nodes are all AI. They're just basically image processing. In fact, you could make a lot of the Photoshop workflows purely in Comfy UI. That Comfy UI is maybe a challenger to Photoshop in a way, because you can do a grasshopper-like logic for the processing of images. And I think that's an easier place to start. And we'll come to loading AI image models in a second. So let's just keep things basic, and we just look at load image. And one of the things you might want to do to load image is resize the image. There are multiple nodes that I have in custom nodes, and you all have as well, that will resize an image. We've got one from Mixlab, KJ Nodes. KJ is one of the most common creators, or one of the most active creators, I would say, for Comfy UI and nodes in general. And we can see then the Comfy UI Essentials. We have this one. This is the one I use the most often. And you'll notice if I was to load all of these nodes in, they have slightly different options. So I can see this is a 1024 by 1024 option. In this one, I can sort of say to stretch or to fill, to pad. I can control the resize in different ways, right? So if I change this to 2024 by 2024, I connect image to image. In this sense, it's not going to do anything because there's no output, but I'll just push play anyway, and it says no outputs, right? So I have a choice here. I can do preview image. So I just double clicked and do preview image, and that's fine. A preview is considered a valid output. Save image would be an alternative. And I can see here that this says down here, this is 2024 by 2024, 1024 by 1024. So this is sort of stretched to expand it. If I look at other Resox nodes, image resize Comfy UI. Sorry, this is the one I use myself. I can connect image to pixels. It's slightly named differently because they've just chosen a different name, but it's the same logic, and you can kind of see the blue lines up to blue, which makes sense. And the reason I like this one is that it lets me say what the larger side or the smaller size is, to say reduce only or increase only or any. And in that sense, I can say make the largest size 1024 by 0. I just leave it as a sort of do whatever you want. And I can do this for any. And now, even though this is not going to actually change the image, it's 1024 by 1024, but if this was some strange pixel size, this here would be like a safety check. And this safety check would mean that if there was a 14,000 pixel image by 5,000 pixels, that it wouldn't just go through to our image generation process, because sending 14,000 pixels by 5,000 pixels for, let's say, an image to image workflow, it would be really slow. So this is a safety thing to put in image resizes after you load images to make sure the largest size is controlled at a sort of maximum limit. One other thing I should probably just mention on shortcuts and basics is if I was to, let's say, make this really big for a second, 10,000, and the trail is going that way, if I do Control M, that mutes that and it turns it off, and it means the workflow is broken because there's no data moving through to the end. But if I do Control B, I get this, I think magenta is the right name for the color, get this magenta kind of color, and that means it's being bypassed, right? So even though this says resize to 8,000, sorry, it's giving me a maximum, this is still 1024 by 1044 because the data is basically going through this node, ignoring it, and going through the other side. And if we have multiple nodes stacked like a train and we want to turn some off, we could use bypass, or there's other reasons. Maybe we had a canny and a depth and we want to turn one off but not actually change the workflow. We could sort of bypass those nodes and leave the whole workflow in place. And you'll see what canny and depth are when we get to them. So instead of image resize, I just want to cover some other image basics first. So we can look at image crop. And I'm going to connect this here. 0. So now this is cropped to 512 by 512, which we know that's like 1/4 of the image based on 1024 512. And you can see there it's just cropped to the top. I could set manually where this start point is at 200, say, and this will move slightly over. But it's still, I don't really like this as an image crop because it doesn't let me maybe control the cropping very well. So I can, again, go to image crop and just search for other, maybe even we just search crop. So this is the one that I think I used last time. And by using this from the essentials one, I now have width, height of the crop, but also a position. So I'm going to connect this one and replace our preview with the second crop image. And I can see, okay, 256 by 256 top left. Now switch to doing, so let's say the center, and maybe make this bigger. And another reason we might do the double click thing that I mentioned earlier is so I can control both at the same time. And I just like dragged that into both of them. And now I can do 512 at the center. And there we go as a crop. Not sure why you would increment this. This would make a slightly bigger crop every time I push run, but not necessarily useful, but it's a standard option. Another way of processing images is to pad an image used for outpainting. We're not actually going to do outpainting just now, but I just want to mention padding an image. So padding an image means to add pixels on the outside of the image. So I can add, let's say 200, or let's say we do it the way we did before. Let's double click this and say, this is going to be top and bottom. And this is going to be left and right. Okay, and press play. And now this is going back to the original image because that's where it's connected to. So the original image added with 200 on the left, 200 on the right, 400 on the top, 400 on the bottom. And now we have an output image that's 1424 by 1824. And we don't have an output here, but we would just use this as the output. So this is that padded image ready to go to the next level if we wanted to use the padded image as our new image. And back to when we just speak about array of pixels, this is just an array of pixels that's gray, 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 and then the colors, and then gray, 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 and so on, right? It's just an array of data. Okay, and instead of preview, we might want to save the image. And the default image save is going to save to, we can have both the preview and the save on, or any number of ones. So this is saving now this padded image. And I can control the file name here, the prefix to the file name. It's just going to add a number at the end. And if I open a folder for a second, so this is, let's say, Comfy UI, Comfy UI. And then we have our output folder, and that's where our images are automatically going to save. And here we have Comfy UI underscore 0038, because it's going to just search the folder for the last number available. So there's already existing 37, 36. And it's just going to add 38, 39 and keep going forever. Where I don't really like this as a naming format, so we can do better than that. But also I want to control the folder and maybe create a new folder for each new day. So I'm going to use save or image save. For some reason it's the opposite. And the WASNode suite. And I'm going to do image to save the image. And if this is still active, like I could mute this or bypass it, and that would sort of prevent this from saving an extra image, because if both of them are on, it will save 2 images. And I can see the default with the WASNode suite is to have this script here, and that's fine for the output path. That means that the name of the file is going to take the year, the month, and the day, and it's going to use that. I'm going to copy in for the file name. So this is the folder name. I prefer it said folder rather than output, but anyway. So file name, I've edited this in. You can kind of just type it in. And once you create this once, you're just going to copy paste it every time thereafter. But you're going to have the time, the year, the month, the day, underscore, the hour, the minute, the second, underscore, and then output. And if I was to create, let's say I wanted to save in my output folder so that they save right beside each other. This might be wasteful, a little bit of memory, but the original image, I could change this line. So I don't want to mess up what's inside the brackets, which is kind of like writing code, but I can write any text word afterwards and it'll be fine. So I can just do this as original. Maybe we just put both of these in here. And now when I push play, it's going to run both of them. This is producing the original image. This is producing the padded image. And if I go to look in my folder, I can see now this is the folder representing this current day, some things I made earlier. And here we are. There's the padded image. That's the year and the time, and then output. And then there's the original. And in this sense, just for the folder, it means you're saving an original or wasting 1.1 megabytes every time you run it. But it can be useful sometimes to have, just from so that you don't lose the original image, to have them all in one place like this. But it's, optional, whatever you want to do. And a little more complicated than these image crop, image pad, but still no more difficult in Comfy UI, but it's computationally better, is removing the background. And there's several remove background options. So we have the WAS suite, we have this specific remove background node, and maybe they have slightly different options, but there's not much. It's just image to image. So I can take the original image and let's say save under the output. Maybe I'm just going to delete this for now, so that we just have one. We can color it in blue so that it's maybe more obvious. Color this one in yellow. And now it's going to go back to the original size and hopefully remove the background. We can see there got this alpha channel there, and it's just separated out there. It's kind of struggled maybe a little bit with the lamppost, but it's pretty good and pretty fast. If I come on to this load image batch now, so rather than one image, this is gonna how we could do a folder of images. And if I take folder, I've saved a whole bunch of images. So under inputs and pets, I'm just going to copy as path. So it's just copying the address of, in my case, Brooks inputs pets. And that's going to be under path. And I think I need to remove the inverted commas. I'm just going to make this yellow so that I see it as an input. And now with our pets folder, we can do remove background. Maybe I might just get rid of all this stuff so that we come back to a simpler thing, right? I'm going to remove the background and then save it. And I'm going to save it specifically with this year, month, day, hour, minute, second in the folder year, month, day. And if I just push play, see if it runs. Okay, there we go. We get, I think this is Grumpy Cat. And we get him without a background there. We can't see what the original image was. We're not saving it. We're not previewing it. So we could just, which is quite common, just have a preview image beside the image batch or whatever we're loading. So I can just see the original image. And if I push play now, it's not going to load anything differently because this is the folder that we have, the path, and then the index is 0. If I change the index to 1, that means it's going to load the next image in folder of this path. And it's not going to increment, so it's just going to do the same thing, not run. Change that to 2, and I get the next image. And it removes the background for each one. It's saving each one of these with an alpha channel in the background. And it's saving as PNG, which has the option to remove the background. If this was JPEG, of course, it wouldn't have that option. And now I can double click on this index to expand out. And I'm going to still keep this as yellow as an input. And rather than have the index fixed, I want to do the index as increment. Bring it back to 0. And now when I push play, this will increment. In this case, this is going to the next file there. And I could push this multiple times, or I could just increase the batch count, which sort of doubles each time. So this is do 8 all at once. So we can now hit play, and we're going to get a range of pets that it's working for us. They're slightly out of sync, but it's saving all these images. And now if I go to my folder, it is out here, output, and today's date, I can see all of these were just processed there. And in that way, a little bit like Photoshop macros or different ways of kind of scripting images, I could go through hundreds of images and just remove the background of all of them with this very simple workflow. Similarly, I can take in 100 images, remake the image as a cyberpunk image and save it 100 times. And in that sense, work with large numbers of images with these kind of workflows. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there and go on to the next video, or continue in the next video.